So I've arrived here at Rewa Rewa school. It's a primary school, grade 1 through 6, I believe. And it looks like they've got some construction project going on here. I don't know, it looks a little upper middle class in this area. I was at Newlands College, which was a high school yesterday, not very far from here. And they were considered a pretty high performing school, so I would suggest this would probably
So
be.
what school are we at here today? What's your name and title?
Okay, we're at Rewa Rewa School in Newlands.
How do you pronounce it?
Well, it's Rewa Rewa. It's a
Rewa
Maori
Rewa.
name, so it's R-E-W-A, R-E-W-A.
Rewa.
It's named after a plant. I can actually show you the plant out the window there. So it's a native tree. My name is Jan Ortini, so my last name is also Maori, although I'm not Maori, my husband is. And my role here is principal.
Okay, so this is a primary school.
It is a primary school, so it's year 1 to year 6. So the children come and they start when they're 5, and they're usually about 10, sometimes 11, when they leave for the intermediate, which is their next stage of their primary school journey.
Okay, and excuse my pronunciation, but is it it's called decil?
Oh, so decile is different. So your a primary school can be year 1 to year 6 or year 1 to year 8. Decile schools are the ranking that the government gives to a school based on information that they get from a census.
Right, so what is your school?
Income, parent income.
Right.
So ours is a 9.
Oh, it's high.
Yeah, but it's a ridiculous system really, because if you get a lot of outside children, say from other areas in Wellington, come to your school, they might not have high income earning parents.
That's correct.
But it still, is our sort of
Because it's ranked
label
within
is-
this area here.
Absolutely. And often the data is old because the census, is only done every 3 years. And the other problem is that the higher your decile, the less money you get
That's what I heard.
from the government for your operating grant. So it really doesn't pay to be too high in some ways, because you get less money.
Okay, so then you request parent donations
Yes,
at this
we do.
school. What's your request here?
Right, we have 2 types. We have the activity fee, which is $90, and we hope that our parents will pay that. Then the government brought in new rules about not being able to force, I suppose, parents to be able to pay. So we have a donation of $90. So parents can choose whether they pay either or. We cannot force them to pay the donation of $90. So we hopefully, through the activity fee of $90, we use that divided over 4 terms, so you've got around about $20 a term, and we use it for things like if we want to go on bus trips somewhere or to visit the zoo. So we use it for those sorts of things, so that we don't continually during the year have to ask parents for money for things.
So if they don't pay it, the kids would still go.
Yeah, they still go. Again, under our rules and our legislation, you're not allowed to discriminate against children because their parents haven't paid. So unfortunately, it just means that any shortfall comes out of our general operating. But I mean, last year we had 83%
Oh, that's
pay.
pretty good.
So that was enough for the things that we needed.
Sure.
So that was fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, do you have like a PTA here?
So we have, yes, we call ours a home and school group. So they're people who volunteer, and there are different aspects to it. So sometimes there might be fundraising, sometimes it might be grants, sometimes it might be helping to organise a triathlon for the school, sometimes it might be a garden club, or coming in to help with reading with students. So there are a lot of different roles, And it's quite a fluid group at our school. So sometimes we'll shoulder tap people and say, you know, we want you to come and help with the triathlon and have a small select group. Other times it's totally open as to whoever wants to come and give their time, and you know, we find out how they can best help.
Okay, so then what type of other resources do you get from the government other than, I mean, like you're doing a lot of construction here.
Yeah.
Is that out of your school budget, or is there a separate budget for that? And when do they decide when you're going to get that money?
Right. So you get what's called a 5YA and a 10-year plan. Every school does, every primary school. Based on your role, you get so much money to help over those 5 years towards all of your property needs. All right. You also get what's called an operational grant, which is cash, and it's given in 4 lump sums over the year. And that's, again, based on your role, and it's paid per student. And that's for things such as relievers, vandalism, insurance, repairs, maintenance, you know, all those sorts of things. So those 2 sorts. Another type of money that you can get is ministry funded professional development. So you can apply, for example, if you think that your teachers need to be upskilled in maths, you can apply for initiatives and get, you know, $40,000 for our school.
But you have to do all the applying.
We do the applying, yeah. Sometimes they'll approach you and say, this is going, do you want to do it?
Right.
And it's quite easy, but they've just changed the system.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Yeah.
With these construction, this is where I'm trying to get it. With the construction, the people that are here, hang on, let me turn this off. Construction of people, do you pick the contractors? Do you have to do all the bidding? Do you have to submit all that stuff?
No, it's great. So every school chooses from a list a property manager. So our property managers are called Ashbys. And so they come and meet with you at the beginning of each new 5-year cycle. They come and meet with the principal, and it's quite a huge job going through absolutely everything to do with your property. They go around and actually see and view everything, and then decisions are made together, but based using their knowledge of property as to what should be determined and what should be worked on first. And always things like health and safety come at the top.
Right.
If the schools have got rot, leaky buildings, etc. Those will be priorities ahead of doing what we're having at the moment, giving ourselves an innovative learning environment. So ideally that money should always be used, I think, for making the teaching and learning space better, but invariably, because like the school was built in the 1960s, so we've got a lot of rot around the windows. So we're gradually going around replacing with aluminium windows.
Right.
The construction that you see at the moment is a one out of the box one, because our school's got 10 classrooms and we only had 5 classrooms in use because the roll is smaller. The ministry deemed us to have extra or surplus space. So the property money you get needs to be big enough to be able to keep all of your property up to code.
Right.
But because we've only got half the roll that we should have for this size school, we've got a smaller budget to be able to cope with doing all the painting and the roofs and the, you know, everything to do with it. So the ministry, because we tried to find some room to put a group of learning and resource teachers, 21 of them, they decided our school would be a great place to have these people based. So the compromise was, in order for us to lose 4 classroom spaces, they have paid for us to have 6 fully modernised spaces for our classrooms, which is, we've been so lucky to have that, because it would have taken us at least another 15, 20 years
Really, to get that.
to do the work that they're doing at the moment.
Now you mentioned that you have kids coming from other areas here.
Yes.
Do you have a lot of kids? What percentage of your kids come out?
Right, so at the moment we've just been doing a lot of work on that. 2/3 of my role live locally. A third of them are what we would call out of zone.
Okay.
Now in New Zealand, some schools have a zone
Right.
and some schools don't. Newlands area has got 4 primary schools, an intermediate and a college, and we've only just going into setting up zones. And the main reason for zones is so the ministry can manage the number of kids in the area against the buildings that they've got.
Okay.
So that if, say, for example, one school was very popular, they don't want to go paying out millions for new buildings if there's another school in the area that's got the buildings.
Right.
So it's a way of ensuring that local students can go to their local school ahead of anyone out of, but it's also a way of managing their property.
So you have their school choice. So then, do a lot of these kids come from the poor areas to come here because they're trying to lift? Their parents want them to kind of lift up. I mean, there must be a reason they're coming out.
It's because their parents work. A lot of them will come drop their kids
Oh, I
here,
see.
and their parents might work just in the local area
Oh,
here.
so it's not just because the schools maybe are low in their area.
No, and sometimes parents will go on to, like I've had several come from quite well-to-do areas, want to bring their children here to our school, and they look at your website, they look at what you stand for, your values. Our school is a smaller school. For a city school, it's quite small.
How many kids?
We've only got 100. So that has, drawn and attracted some of the
Okay.
out of zone
Could you
parents
have
coming to
more
us.
kids here? Would you have the space to have more kids?
What the ministry has done is they've given the principals in the area the opportunity to look at having zones, and in the meantime they've also given us an idea, an indication of where they think the zone should be. We've had some say in shifting some of those lines. So my zone, 85% capacity is 125 children, 100% capacity is 150 children. So they don't want our school to grow any bigger than 150.
Okay.
And we're fine about that too. Ideally we'd like to be between 125, 150. Once we get over 150, then they're going to start thinking about building more buildings, which they probably don't want to do.
So how would you get to 150?
Just by attracting more people to the role.
Is that hard to do?
I think in our zone it might be, because you look at all the other zones of all the other schools in the area, 2 of them are connected to new building areas. One in particular, we know there are going to be 1,000 more homes built.
Yeah.
So theirs is going to, whereas ours is very
This is a mature area, right? It's a mature, established,
very
older
established.
homes.
Yeah.
A lot of the kids have already gone, right?
Absolutely.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So what we're trying to estimate and look into our little golden pool is, okay, the older people, when they shift out, are they going to shift, new people shifting in with children? And there are a lot of rentals in our one as well, which is a pain, because then you sometimes will have someone staying and then within
Leaving.
8 months they've left.
Rent goes up, gotta go get something cheaper.
Yeah, or you get some families having to shift in with other families because the
Right.
rent's too high. So yeah, it's a bit of a funny role.
Do you have a deputy principal?
Yes, I do. That
Really?
was Charlotte.
Oh, that's her,
Yeah.
right? For 100 kids.
Yep. Oh yeah, every school has a deputy principal. But of course, with a smaller role and smaller number of teachers, the jobs have to be shared. So on a simple terms, normally on our weekly roster of duty, etc., normally in a big school, because I've taught it, schools that are about 780, you might have 2 or 3 duties in a week. And if you're lucky, the school might hire people to come and do the duties anyway. Well, at this school, I have between 6 to 9 duties in a week. So, yeah, there's, that's on that very sort of.
Do you have to
level.
teach here at all? Do you have to teach any classes?
It depends on my my role. When the role at the beginning of the year drops down to about the 84, 86, because the year 6's leave, and you're waiting for the new ones to come in, the management part of my role changes. So they put in 0.2. So that realistically that means a day a week, but it doesn't mean to say that I have to be teaching for a day a week. So
It could be a little bit every day somewhere.
yeah, and it doesn't have to be a whole class. So
Right.
I initially, when I came, I did do a day a week in a classroom, but I just found that I wasn't getting anything else done. So then I stretched it this way over the week so that I could work with target students or target groups. And also the other end of the scale, I wanted to work with our leaders and our peer mediators and groups like that. So there's flexibility. I can choose, along with the board, how it is that my time is used.
And you're paid based on the amount of kids.
Yeah.
So
You're paid
your
what's
must
called-
be lower.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, you're called a U1, U2, U3, U4. So we're a U2 at the beginning of the year, we become a U3 by the end of the year. So your wages go up. I think mine went up by about 150, 200 a pay.
Okay.
A pay's a fortnight,
right.
big deal. So yeah, you do find in a small school that the DP is almost earning the same as you are as a principal, and you've got a responsibility for, if everything goes wrong. So it is quite interesting. Yeah, it's
Okay.
interesting.
I mean, I go to a lot of different countries. Here, the classrooms seem to be open.
Yeah.
Some of the other schools I've been in, some of the schools are like 3 classrooms together. They cut holes in them, which is kind of, kids are working a lot of differentiated learning. Kids are doing a lot of, you don't actually see that everywhere.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing. Kids are like doing, well, maybe not at this level, but like project-based
Yes.
learning, right?